I've been with my partner for 4.5 years, and everything in our relationship is really good. Great, even. We have so much fun together, and he looks after me well. But we've had one consistent issue in our relationship from the start. We have an open phone policy, and I've never felt the need to go through his phone because I was never suspicious of him for any reason. But when I was going through his photo library to send myself some photos we took on his phone at an engagement party, I discovered he had been screenshotting and saving photos of my 3 best friends, housemate, and his close female friends, and other girls we know for his, bank.
Absolutely not.
I confronted him because obviously this made me super uncomfortable and I felt like it was disrespectful to me and to all of our girlfriends. He promised this behavior would end, but over the last 4 years, I keep accidentally stumbling across the same thing time and time again, which was terrible for myself. He had been logging into my accounts on my laptop when I wasn't home and going through my messages with my girlfriends and stealing lingerie pictures they had sent me when trying on some new stuff before, and other photos of my friends they had sent me in complete confidence. Plus, accessing my friends' private accounts on my laptop, taking photos of the pics on the accounts that he liked, and then wiping my history. He went so far as to crop all the pictures nicely. This was well thought out. There was also pics of his ex-girlfriend, who we still hang out with, and a lot of the photos of these girls were just normal selfies of their faces, which made it super personal. He promised to stop this time, but I keep hearing that. Not to mention the trust is gone, and now when I check his phone, everything is a little too squeaky clean. I've also had issues in the past where I have had to call him out on extremely flirty texts to his girlfriend.
I've been dating my boyfriend for a year. We matched on Tinder originally and he sparked up a conversation with me about my career field, which is in the funeral business. I'm a licensed cosmetologist who prepares deceased people for their funerals. It might sound weird to some, but I enjoy my job and it brings me joy to see the family's reactions to my work. It also doesn't bother me to do makeup on deceased people. My boyfriend's always been supportive and interested in my career. I always thought he was just a sweet and supportive person. We would always talk about my job and my clients. He always asked me specific questions about how people look and what it's like when I'm touching them or doing work on them. I was always happy to answer his questions and talk about my work with him because it was nice to have someone who was genuinely interested. I also have a portfolio with before and after pictures of work I've done on my deceased clients with their family's permission, of course. My boyfriend asked to see these pictures, but I never showed him or anyone else besides potential employers because I felt that 1, it was disrespectful to the memory of the person and their family, and 2, because it was unprofessional to do so. Originally, my boyfriend respected me when I told him my reasoning as to why I wouldn't show him, but over time he's gotten more and more agitated about it. It slowly came up more often and it was starting to make me question why he gets so upset over this. However, a month ago, he stopped bringing it up and asking about it. One day, when he was sleeping and his phone was out, I had the craziest gut feeling to go through it. I had never done it before, but I couldn't shake this feeling. I finally gave in and checked his photo album. I was shocked to find that he had gone through my portfolio and snapped pictures of it. I woke him up in anger and confronted him. This is when he broke down and admitted that he was into necrophilia. Things only went downhill from here. Part 2, I found out my boyfriend is into necrophilia. When my boyfriend broke down and admitted it, I was shocked. Everything from our first conversation up until finding the pictures on his phone all made sense in a different light. He explained that me being a mortuary cosmetologist is what drew him to me in the first place. All the conversations we had about my job and experiences further fueled his fantasies and made it all more realistic. He also enjoyed that I didn't mind being around deceased people. He admitted that he thought eventually he might be able to get me to roleplay in the bedroom with him and give him a realistic taste of what it would really be like. As he said all of this, I could see and feel the excitement slowly radiating off of him. I'm not one to shame people for what they're into, but this just creeped me out. I think he could see the terror on my face because he quickly tried to change the topic. However, it was too late. Knowing all of this knowledge now, I couldn't turn a blind eye and it wasn't something that I could accept. I grabbed his phone and wiped the pictures. Then I told him that I needed the next few days to myself. He gathered his things and left. However, he spent the next few days blowing up my phone with apologies. They started out sincere at first, but when I didn't reply, they got more aggressive. He tried to shame me for not being an open-minded person and accepting of his interest. By the end of the week, I told him our relationship was over and his actions were unforgivable. He continued to pester me for a while after that, but eventually backed off when I threatened to out him to his friends and family if he didn't leave me alone. I met my girlfriend at a party one night. She seemed like a total daredevil type of chick who grabbed life by the horns. The night I met her, she jumped off of the roof of the house into the pool. This instantly caught my attention and I was immediately attracted to her. I quickly took my shot and started talking to her. We got along really well right off the bat and things started heating up quickly in no time. We would go on adventures all the time and it was great, until it wasn't. We've been together for 8 months at this point when I started questioning what was really going on. There were multiple times when we went on an adventure and I felt like she almost got me killed. At first, I thought I was being paranoid, but over time, it became more of an occurrence on her part. For example, we went hiking on a rocky and dangerous trail with a huge drop-off. If anyone fell off of the side, they'd definitely be toast. At one point, when I was making it across, she ran up and tried to push me. Thankfully, I saw her in the corner of my eye and ducked so that she'd miss, but I was shocked. She started laughing and acting like it was a huge joke. I was genuinely terrified, but I moved past it because I thought she had a dark, twisted sense of humor. There's no way she'd actually try to push me, right? Well, my theory was definitely solidified when we went hunting together. She has expertise in this area as she grew up doing it, but I've only been a few times. At one point, she literally aimed the rifle at me from afar. When I yelled at her to stop and started freaking out, she had the craziest smile I've ever seen on her face. It was almost like a switch flipped. I really thought she was going to go through with it until another hunter in the area heard me yelling and came to see what was up. When she realized someone else was around, she quickly changed her aim and once again laughed it off like it was a big joke. After this, I knew I needed to get away from her and end the relationship. However, most of my things were still at her apartment and I didn't know how to go about it because at this point, I wasn't sure what she'd do. Part 2, I think my girlfriend is trying to unalive me. I borrowed her apartment key while she was at work and quickly grabbed all my things, including my laptop that I had let her use for school. When I got on it, I was shocked at what I found. There were a bunch of websites I didn't recognize, but after visiting them, I was terrified. She had frequented websites that included a lot of gore and death. From what I could tell, she was particularly interested in acts of torture and so on. She had even Googled different ways to make unaliving someone look like a complete accident. Additionally, there were also Google searches for how to fake certain emotions and empathy. Shortly after going through all of this, I got a text from her asking where I was and why I had taken all my things. I wasn't sure if I should go all in about the things I thought or if I should play it cool. I had a bad feeling that this girl was dangerous and I didn't want to just let her think that she was safe to keep doing these things. I confronted her and told her about everything I found. I also told her what I think she's been doing in our relationship. At first, she tried to defend herself and once again act like it was all a joke. However, when she realized I wasn't buying it, she got angry. That's when she started spewing threats and told me that she should have pushed me off of the cliff on our hike. After this, I started ignoring her texts, but she kept blowing me up. Her texts were getting even more aggressive. I decided I'd deal with it the next day and went to bed. However, at 2 a.m. I heard banging on my apartment door. I could tell that it was her. I could hear her angered breathing behind the door and she wasn't leaving. I called the police and had her arrested for harassment. That's when I also made a police report about everything I had found and turned it over to the police. The last time I saw her was when I was granted a restraining order against her in court because she started stalking me. The judge also sentenced her to mandatory therapy after all the evidence was brought forth. Ever since then, I've moved far away and I always watch my back. I had a falling out with my family which led me to be homeless. I ended up living in my Subaru Forester with my fiance who was living with me at my parents' house at the time. We made a bed out of camping pads and sleeping bags along with a ton of blankets. We stored our food and drinks under the rear seats which kept it from freezing. This all happened in the winter months of Pennsylvania. Most nights the weather was around 10 to 20 degrees in Fahrenheit. Camping in your car isn't technically legal here, so we had to hide it. I found a clearing in a remote area of the state forest that wasn't used in the winter. There was no winter maintenance, so we would follow our tire tracks the exact same way every night. This let us know we were alone and nobody had been there. Living in your car in the dead of winter is unnerving but also peaceful at the same time. One night we woke up to see footprints in the snow circling our car, but they led into the woods and disappeared after that. On colder nights, we'd bundle together and use the remote starter to run the car and warm us up. There was a porta potty in walking distance, and the nearest gas station for food was 20 minutes away, sometimes longer if there was more than a few inches of snow on the trail. This went on for most of the winter into the spring until I was in an accident. The roads leading to our spot were all 2-lane roads with no passing zones. My fiancée was following me in her car since the snow was gone and she could make it down the trail now. Someone passed both of us using the oncoming lane while doing double the speed limit. The road was cold and wet, so they lost control. The accident caused a chain reaction of my fiancée's car sliding into mine when I had to slow down to avoid the accident ahead of me. The police ended up accusing us of racing with the driver, who passed away in the hospital a few days later. Multiple charges were brought up against us and we couldn't afford to lose our driver's licenses over it since we both worked in the automotive industry and it was a requirement. Homeless and living in our cars with little money, we were faced with the choice of losing our licenses for something that we didn't do or hiring a lawyer to prove our innocence. Even though we couldn't afford it, we chose the latter and had to pay $1,000 each. The deadline for payment was short and we ended up selling almost all of our possessions that we had left in order to pay it in time. They threatened to drop our case multiple times over it, which only added to the stress. My fiancé's car barely survived after being in the body shop for almost 3 months. My car, which doubled as our home, was totaled. I used the insurance check to finance the car from the dealer that I worked at. I fell behind on the payments because of the lawyer fees and the lack of work in the shop. There wasn't even enough work for everyone to make 20 hours at one point. I left the shop and worked for multiple food and grocery delivery companies to support myself. My car was repossessed and we ended up sharing my fiancé's car. Delivering food for multiple companies was barely enough to pay the bills. Food became a once-a-day luxury most of the time. Sometimes customers wouldn't put the right zip code for their address or take too long to buzz me into their apartment, so I ended up marking the food as delivered and keeping it. This happened once with a lady who put the wrong town, and instead of driving over to the next town, I kept it. They got multiple pizzas and sandwiches, which ended up lasting us 3 days. I'm not proud of it, but my hunger and frustration with my living conditions got the best of me. It was the only time that I ever stole anything in my life. I'm working in a motorsports shop now and doing well with it. I still have debts to pay off, but I'm moving into a trailer with my fiancé this fall. This will be our first home together that's truly ours and we're excited for it. I still deliver food, but it always makes its way to the customer now.
Am I the asshole for not getting my drunk girlfriend fast food? One of my girlfriend's friends graduated, so we went out to a bar to celebrate. It was a Tuesday night. We got the invite last minute, but we both agreed to go for like 2 hours tops. I was the DD so she could celebrate with her friend. Plus, I had work in the morning. She's unemployed. Anyways, we meet her friends at the bar and we have a good time. Then we hop in the car to head home. When we get in the car, my girlfriend asks me if I want to get food. She's drunk. I'm not. Usually, When I go out, I'm down, but this time I tell her, no, I kind of just want to go home. It's late. She then starts begging, please, can we get Jack in the Box? I tell her I just want to go home and that there's food at our apartment. She then throws a little tantrum and calls me mean, says she would have taken me if I was drunk, and she brings up the time it would take to go. I said no because 1, I was really tired and I really value my sleep, and 2, we both just started working out. We got gym passes.